Welcome back to my little channel. As you can see, I have the forest out. I like the forest. It's a beautiful picture. It is. Forests in themselves are beautiful. I love being in the forest. I do. Especially with weather like we've been having lately. A little bit of a drizzle, you know, not really hard rain, not really cold, but the smells you get in autumn, it's beautiful. I'd advise everyone to go in the autumn to the forests. Now, one of the reasons why the smells are the way they are is because of the rotting of the leaves. The downside of rotting leaves is that they release CO2 in the environment, I know, but at the same time it is beautiful. And the funny thing is, it's a good thing that they release CO2 in the atmosphere, because the CO2 is then again used by other plants to propagate life. I get slightly sidetracked, but obviously when I have the forest out, we will talk about the environment. And today we will talk about how there is something we can do to help our environment, and all you have to do is pay money. Now that in itself should bring all kinds of alarms in your head off, because let's be honest, money doesn't change anything about CO2. But okay, there we go, that's what it is. There has been a Kickstarter, there is a Kickstarter at this point in time, it's still running, to create a negative bracelet which will be made with atmospheric carbon taken out of the air. Are you serious? Well, yes I am. I mean, let me show you what they are on about. It's really interesting. Now, as you can see, there is this guy with glasses wearing a bracelet, and the text itself says negative. A bracelet made with captured atmospheric carbon. A carbon negative jewelry. Contains carbon dioxide captured from the air. Now, the thing is, this is true for nearly all jewelry. Well, it's not all captured from the air, obviously, but nearly all jewelry has captured carbon in it. But anyway, so they have a campaign where people can donate, and apparently there are 517 people who think this is a good idea. I for the life of me can't imagine why, but okay, 507, and on average they each gave $100 for. You know what? Let's continue on that in a second. Let's see what they want us to know themselves. Well, they've got a video, so let's see where they go with their video. Obviously, we have to go to the beginning. Here we go.
This is carbon dioxide.
Okay, obviously this is not carbon dioxide. That is a balloon, and the air in a balloon isn't 100% carbon dioxide either. It's mostly air with a little bit of carbon dioxide in it. But let's give them their visual aid, shan't we? Trust me, it's nothing compared to reality, but it's definitely nothing compared to that. Here we go.
We make it when we drive.
Okay, we make carbon dioxide when we drive. Not really. We release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere when we drive, because carbon dioxide comes from burning fuels. The fuels have carbon, the carbon burns, then binds with, well, what remained binds with the oxygen in the air, and that creates carbon dioxide, or carbon two oxides. Because that's basically what it is, carbon oxide, carbon dioxide. And I love the fact that this child is just playing with balloons, because, let's be honest, that's what you do with balloons, isn't it? You play with them. Anyway, let's continue.
We make it when we eat.
Okay, first off, no, we don't make carbon dioxide when we eat. But what we eat, our body burns, and then when we breathe out, it's basically the exhalation gives carbon dioxide back to the cycle. And nearly everything he's holding in his hand, the bun, the lettuce, the beef, I assume it's beef, could be chicken, I don't know. Everything in his hand is also part of the cycle. So plants take in carbon dioxide, release carbon dioxide. Animals take in carbon dioxide, release carbon dioxide. It's impossible to do anything that doesn't, in one way or other, create carbon dioxide. For humans anyway, for most mammal-like creatures. Funny enough though, the little blonde girl realizes, oh, carbon dioxide, check please. But the thing is, what she's eating is creating carbon dioxide too. Because you can't eat without creating carbon dioxide. It's not really true because the eating itself doesn't create carbon dioxide, but the burning of the food by your body creates carbon dioxide. Are we feeling stupid yet?
And we make it when we fly.
Yes, when we burn fuel, we release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The fuel, when burnt, is made up of several parts, and part of that is carbon dioxide, and therefore once it's burned it releases back into the atmosphere. That in itself isn't a big problem. No, it's a huge problem. No, it's not a big problem. 97% of carbon in the atmosphere comes from nature itself. Humans are only contributing about 3, let's say 4% of the carbon. But in the end it doesn't matter because carbon is part of a cycle. So even if we put carbon back into the atmosphere, nature will absorb the carbon again. Carbon is the primary force to feed plants. Not the primary force. Primary source? Primary source. Let's call it primary source. Let's continue though. Yes, mate, you're hallucinating. When you see balloons coming out of the exhaust of a plane, you're hallucinating.
It's time we take some back.
Okay, so that balloon is carbon dioxide. Pop goes the balloon, and boom! Suddenly he's wearing a bracelet. Now this is the bracelet they're all about. Because this bracelet... No, you know what? Let them tell it.
This is negative. It's a bracelet. These beads are made of carbon dioxide captured from the atmosphere. This stuff used to be heating up the planet, and now it's a cool thing you can wear on your wrist.
Okay, yes, I'm stopping it here because this is just people being mind blown and all that. Carbon dioxide doesn't heat up the planet. I know people like to believe that. Carbon dioxide does not heat up the planet. Carbon dioxide isn't a greenhouse gas. I know people like to think it is. I know people being told it is. It's really not. And how can you tell? Because there are places where there is very little moist in the air. Moist, by the way, is a greenhouse gas. And in these places, the changing of temperature isn't as big. Whereas places where there is lots of moisture in the air, the changing of the temperature is bigger. Why? Because during the night we cool down. And carbon dioxide doesn't stop that cooling down. But moist in the air does stop that cooling down. So when during the night it's supposed to cool down, it doesn't really cool down that much. So the beginning heat of the day is already higher. The heat, by the way, comes from outside of the system, the sun. But enough of that. Let's continue with this one.
We call it negative because it's carbon negative.
It's not carbon negative. And yes, I know he's going to say it's made of the carbon captured in the atmosphere.
Made of carbon dioxide, and each bracelet pays for machines to remove even more carbon from the air.
Okay, so here's the funny thing. There are machines who will take carbon out of the air. How will those machines work? Well, mostly machines are made out of some sort of metal. That's not true, because there are machines that take carbon out of the air that don't use any energy that we produce, and they're not made of energy. Sorry, they're not made of metal. You know what those machines are? Those machines are trees. But yeah, you don't get nifty black carbon beads, you get wooden beads. But yeah, trees take carbon out of the air and turn it into wood. But you can have an electrically driven machine to take carbon out of the air and make it into some form of carbon like plastic. Let me rephrase that. You can create energy by burning carbon, burning carbon containing goods, and with that energy you can then remove carbon out of the air. And anyone else think this is a really stupid idea? And let's be honest, that bracelet doesn't look that heavy, does it? But humans breathe out at least about 700 grams of carbon, or carbon dioxide, not carbon, a day. Let's continue though. Let's see how far he puts his foot in his mouth. Oh, and I like the fact that, oh, look at this poor woman consoling this poor man because he's creating so much carbon. Then look at what is on her plate. My dear, I have good news and bad news. You're creating carbon too. It's difficult to see. Sorry, I moved my mouse. See? All that green stuff, that's creating carbon dioxide too when her body burns it. And that's normal because there's nothing we can eat that doesn't create carbon dioxide. And never mind. Let's blame.
Even the best of us can't avoid all our carbon emissions. But if we band together, we can each be part of the solution.
See, that's not part of the solution. It's nice to think that that's part of the solution. Do you really want to be part of the solution? If you have a big enough garden, plant a tree. Trees can take up to 13 kilos a year in carbon dioxide, which still isn't anywhere near what a human produces. As I said, we breathe about 700 grams to a kilo per day. We exhale about that. Which is perfectly fine. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there are plenty of trees in the atmosphere. In the atmosphere already. In the human biodome is very diverse, and plants take in carbon dioxide. Hence the forest. But do we really want to take out more carbon out of the air? I'm not sure we should, to be honest, because I've read a report not too long ago that the carbon in the atmosphere is dangerously low for plant life. But let's pretend that we do want to take more carbon out of the air, and then, in all fairness, planting more trees isn't a bad way to do it, because then the carbon becomes part of the cycle again. As I said, about 97% of the carbon in the atmosphere comes from nature itself. Okay, this mostly happens when forests are releasing their leaves. In autumn, for example. The rotting, which has a beautiful smell. I love the smell of rotting plants. It's sick, I know. Well, it's not. It's really nice. You should go to the forest. It's beautiful. Anyway, that rotting releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Then plants will take it in to create more plants. It's a cycle. Carbon dioxide is a cycle. So is there a problem with having more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? Well, only if there isn't anything to offset it. But then again, nature will find a way. I know it's a beautiful phrase from that Jurassic Park movie. I can't remember the one of them anyway. But it's true. What we're seeing now happening in the Sahara, and it's something that happens nearly always, the edges of the Sahara are turning into tundra faster than ever before. Well, what does that mean? It means plants started growing again in the Sahara. Well, that's nice. Yeah, but you know why? Because of CO2 in the atmosphere. Because it hasn't been raining more there. It's CO2 is part of the cycle of life. Everything in the world is part of the cycle of life, as is CO2. Taking CO2 out of the atmosphere may not be the best thing we can do. But even if it's not the best thing we can do, this is the worst. Because you're going to pay lots of money to basically get a beaded bracelet. If you got wood beads, you'd be cheaper off and it would actually work. Because now we've got a machine taking carbon out of the atmosphere. So there is energy creating to make the machine. That machine will then use energy to create usable portions of carbon, so it makes carbon pellets, so to speak. This is all the consumption of energy. And energy creates carbon. Well, not really, not if they use nuclear power, but of course they won't, let's be honest, because they're not in it to, change the environment. They're in it to win it, to make money. Oh, look at that! We've got something on our wrist that is roughly the same of... how much do you think a bracelet like that would weigh? Well, it won't weigh half a kilo, obviously. So I'm going to say 250 grams. I could be wrong, but let's pretend 250 grams. So basically 1 night's sleep. They're wearing 1 night's sleep. And they're feeling so good about it. Oh, it's so good. You really want to do something? Plant trees. If you don't have, the room to plant trees, get green plants. They're not as good, but anything that is plant life and green, well, anything that is plant life really, will absorb carbon from the atmosphere. The thing is though, once the plant dies and it rots, it releases carbon dioxide. That's the cycle of life. Or the cycle of carbon. I mean, there's a cycle of carbon, a cycle of life, a cycle of water, a cycle of nearly everything. Anyway, let's continue. Oh, did you see that child? She popped multiple balloons even though she already had one of those bracelets. Funny enough, that's a good analogy of reality. That bracelet doesn't do anything. After the first balloon pops, you're going to pop millions of other balloons, but you won't get more bracelets. And that bracelet probably isn't negative as they like to claim it is, because let's be honest, that machine has to be made. So let's be honest, that machine has to be made, and when it's made, it uses energy, and energy creates carbon, or rather releases carbon back into the atmosphere. So it makes you wonder why those 517 backers have backed this.
So join us and start taking climate solutions into your own hands.
Now, it's a good thing to take climate solutions into your own hands, but then at least look for a solution. Don't look for pandering like this. Is carbon dioxide a problem? Well, other than that it's too low. No, not really. Could we do something to change the carbon dioxide? I've been saying this ever so often. Plant more trees. Really? Is that all? No, it's not all. It would be a good thing if we released more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, because it's better for the plants. No, surely not. It's dangerous, don't you know? If there's too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, humans will die. Yes, that's true. I'm not denying the fact that too much carbon dioxide will kill us. But by any chance, do you know how much too much will be? Because we're currently at 300 and a little bit. There are people who say we're at 400 parts per million. And being 400 parts per million in itself sounds like a lot. But humans have no problem with 1,000 parts per million at all. How do we know that? Because the average home is at 1,000 parts per million. Because, you know, if you're in your living room or in your bedroom, you breathe and it'll increase the parts per million of carbon dioxide in your atmosphere. Especially when you're in a living room with 2, 3, 4 people. The air in that atmosphere is being breathed in a lot. So it increases the carbon dioxide in the air in your living room, which isn't a problem. You're not noticing it. Now, when are you going to start noticing it? I don't know. There are people who say 5,000. There are people who say 10,000. There are people who say 40,000 you still could survive. I don't know. I'm not going to try. My lungs aren't that perfect and I don't want to walk the risk. But I do know that 1,000 isn't a problem at all. Yeah, but hey, are you feeling guilty yet? Are you feeling scared yet? Do you feel that you need to save the world by wearing a bracelet that negates about a few hours of breath? Me neither. Okay, I'm not going to continue with this. No, maybe I should. Let's continue with this.
Let's go negative.
Okay, back that campaign and let's go negative. Okay, these are outtakes. Fair enough. Look at all those balloons. The funny thing is, do you think that rubber, because those balloons are usually made out of rubber, was created in a CO2 negative way? I'll let you in a secret. I know for a fact that they weren't. Or those chairs, those metal plus wooden chairs, or the wooden table. I'm telling you, that wooden table, even though it wasn't created in a carbon negative way, is containing more carbon than those bloody beads. And it's not me just thinking that, don't get me wrong. I mean, I understand it when people are being reluctant to believe something. I totally understand that. I would be reluctant to believe something. Why would I be reluctant to believe something? Because I know it's a bloody lie. How do I know it's a bloody lie? Well, guys, there is this thing called the interwebs. You should try it sometimes. You can find so much information on the internet. Like this. Like what? Well, like, you know, seeing how much CO2 you are exhaling. For example, this globe science blog. The release of carbon dioxide by individual humans. Okay, I'm not going to read it all. I can't care about reading it all. But I will have a link downstairs. And if you don't believe me, just, you know, Globe Scientist blog, release of carbon dioxide by individual humans. Google that and you will find it. So you know I'm not making this up. Then again, you don't know that. I could be the one behind all this. But I'm not Peggy. I'm sorry. I didn't post this in 2008. Okay, so where was it? Here it is. I start with some rather gross assumption. The average human eats about 200 kilocalories. 2,000 calories. So 2 kilocalories per day. 2,000 kilocalories per day. I can't remember. I had this all at school. It's too long ago. Okay, 100% of this food is processed with all the carbon returning to the atmosphere. Because that's what carbon does. There's only two ways carbon can do something. Either it's part of the cycle or it is locked. Now, the oil underground has been locked. It's locked carbon. By burning the fuel, we're releasing the carbon into the atmosphere, which, as I said earlier, is a good thing because plants, they need carbon. Now, if we burn carbon, this is the one. Sugar provides about 4 kilocalories of energy per gram, which is funny enough, but that's not the point. Meaning that our human eats about 500 grams of sugar each day. 40 of this 200 grams is carbon. Assuming all of this carbon is released as part of the carbon dioxide, our body releases 733 grams of carbon dioxide per day. Now, I have seen calculations that go slightly higher, but then again, this calculation assumes 2,000 kilocalories. Most people eat more than 2,000 kilocalories, especially in the West. Let's not lie. So it could well be up to 1,000 or even 1,500 grams of carbon dioxide a day for especially obese people. Being obese is bad for the environment. You heard it here first. It's no big deal. Now, there will be people saying, yeah, but this isn't important because this is all part of the natural cycle. I mean, we breathe it out, plants take it in. It's the extra carbon dioxide that's the problem. And I'm like, how is the extra carbon dioxide a problem when this carbon dioxide isn't? I mean, do the plants know, okay, this carbon dioxide I'm allowed to breathe in, but that carbon dioxide, oh no, I shouldn't touch that. That's the extra carbon dioxide. Of course not. Plants don't have a tag on things. Carbon dioxide is carbon dioxide. They use it to grow, and therefore they will. Now, do you really want to stop people using carbon dioxide? I'm not sure if we can. Or rather, I am sure we can't. No, the problem isn't carbon dioxide. The problem is we are being scared. We're being made to feel so scared. Do we really want to have a solution about all the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Plant more trees. If you can't plant trees, plant plants. Everything that is green, and no, not the paint, obviously not. Everything that lives takes in carbon. Humans take in carbon as well. And it's unfair to say we exhale all carbon, because it's not true, because part of the carbon we retain, because it's part of what we are. When we die and we burn, we will release more carbon into the atmosphere as well. Carbon comes in a cycle. When it's grown, it's being held, and when you die, it's being released. This is true for plant life, this is true for human life, this is true for nearly everything. Well, not for fuel, because fuel wasn't alive. Yes, not for fuel, but when fuel burns, it releases carbon as well. And it's a good thing. As I said earlier, and I will have to make a video about this, I have to look it up. I have to see if I can find that article again. But apparently, the carbon in our atmosphere is dangerously low. It's a good thing that it goes up, because plants need carbon to survive. And humans need plants to survive. It's all a cycle thing. Anyway, like, share and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Criticism is more than welcome. And please, please, please don't fall for the lies of the environmentally better than your people, because they're lying to us. They're not in it for the environment. They're in it for control. They want to rule your world. And instead of coming with good ideas, they're coming with fear. Because it's so much easier to control people when they're afraid. Anyway, I hope to see you all next time. Like, share and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Please share though, because this is very important. It's a long talk, I know. This is very important. People should be made aware. So like, share, and subscribe. And I hope to see you all next time.